So hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Now today's video is going to be a little bit different. Today's video is all about my 5 top tips when shooting woodland photography. So yes, 5 tips for woodland photography. These are my top 5 tips that have helped me out and what I've learned definitely over the last few years, more so than anything else. And what better way to give you those top 5 tips than being in the woodlands themselves. The autumn colours are really starting to come out now. The birches are starting to change colour as well. The ferns are starting to brown off beautifully. So, you know, I thought I'd make this video now while I wait for those more autumn colours to come in. Mushrooms are also everywhere, which is great. So tip number 1, let's start off with that. Now it's something that I was told, or I heard about, or something like that. So it wasn't something that I learned on my own. Someone gave me that gift as such of knowledge. But yeah, tip number 1 is try and go handheld. Obviously I've got my tripod on me, it's on my back, and it will always be there. But when I was learning woodland photography, I was always thinking that I needed the tripod. My camera was always on the tripod, and it was a faff carrying it around and things like that. So I feel like you missed shots that were there, but you missed them because the tripod was getting in the way all the time. So that's the reason why I say go handheld. If you've got something like a kit lens 10 to 18, the 18 to 55, sorry, or even a 10 to 18 will do. I personally am now using a Sigma 17 to 70, and that will be my sort of like mid-range lens that will go on my camera body, and I can just handhold it, look for compositions with my eye while I'm walking around, and then when I find the shot, that's when I break out the tripod, because then I'm not limiting myself to what the tripod can only sort of where it can go and things like that. I've seen the shot and then I can set up. So that would be my first tip when doing woodland photography. Some of the best images I've ever got from woodland photography have started off handheld, then onto the tripod. So yeah, I would say that's tip number 1 for me to give to you, is try and go handheld when starting off or learning or just scouting. So tip number 2, you're going handheld, you're having a look around, you're starting to scope things out, and you're finding your compositions. Like it can be very overwhelming shooting a woodlands. There's lots of different trees, colours, especially this time of year, and it can get overwhelming. So try to take your time. So this is tip number 2. Take your time, just relax. A woodland is supposed to be a nice calm, it's nature. Take your time with it. It's not going anywhere. Yes, that light could possibly change. So that's one aspect you could hurry as such. But the tree or your subject, it's not going anywhere. It's here, you know. So just try to take your time and relax and let those compositions come and find you a little bit more naturally than having to force them on. So yeah, that's tip number 2, is just slow down and take your time. Tip number 3. Tip number 3 is pick a woodlands that you know quite well. I am at Breed High Woods. I've done many videos here. I've done lots of shooting here as well, not just like for video content, just all the time. If I want 5 minutes to myself, I will come out here and just be amongst this woodland. So I know it quite well. I know how to get to places quickly. I know little shortcuts. I know where some nice trees are. I know where the light's going to be depending on what time of day and year and things like that. So just pick a woodland that is quite well known to yourself, because then that helps you isolate subjects out as well, because woodlands are very, very, very busy. So yes, so like I have just found a shot, so I'm going to set up, and that will lead me on to the next tip. Tip number 4. Now, tip number 4 is going to be a really obvious one to most people, but time and time again, I see myself and other landscape photographers doing this mistake all the time when coming out in the field, not just to let alone to just to woodlands, but just to shoot all the time. And if anyone saw my video from a few weeks ago or last week, I can't remember which order I'm putting these out in, so I apologise, but I'll put a link up there. I was in a woodlands doing a lens, prime lens challenge, and I forgot my polarized filter. So yeah, tip number 4, make sure you bring the right gear. And that just doesn't include camera, lenses, filters like I forgot, raincoat, an umbrella. You're out in the middle of nature, you know, weather can change like it is today. It's like sunny, the clouds are now coming back in, so it could rain again in a minute. So yeah, gear is very important when you're out in the middle of nature in woodlands, because you never know what the weather is going to be like. So, you know, look at the forecast, try and judge it as best as you can. But, you know, these fold up to next to nothing now. So, and they go in my camera bag and down one of the side pockets, and you never even know it was there. It's like the size of a pouch for your batteries. So yeah, make sure you've got your essential gear: camera, lenses, batteries, filters, and all your tripod and your essentials. And then it's other things like your coat and things like that. So yeah, that's tip number 4 when shooting woodlands. Don't be under prepared when shooting out in these environments, because you never know. Oh, wellies. Especially today, wellies, because of the weather, yeah. So yeah, like I said, that's tip number 4. Like I said, I have found a composition using all the tips that I'm giving so far. So yeah, let's move on to tip number 5, where I'm going to take this image. I'm all set up for this image. I've taken my time, I've gone handheld, I've made sure I've got all my equipment before I've set out to a location that I already know. And then I've come to a spot where I know where there are some trees that are easy subjects to start off with, before going into the chaotic scenes of the deep woods, you know, which are harder to do. So I've come up to like this, it's like a fern heath area. It's a very small patch, but there is a tree just over there. You probably can't see it on this lens. And I've isolated it. It's slightly backlit, but the leaves are slightly wet from where it's been raining. So I have put a polarizer on it, just to take off those glare off those leaves, and it's crunched those colours up a little bit. I'll probably desaturate it a little bit in the edit, because I don't want it too vibrant. But yeah, it's a very simple image. So let me show you on the back of the camera to show you what I'm framed up. Right, I'll try and do the best as I can, but I'm actually standing in like some sort of a rut, so I'm having to tiptoe while I do this. But yeah, as you can see, I've framed this tree up. It's nice and simple. I've tried to isolate it as best as I can. I've got some nice orange ferns in the bottom. I have got it in a 1x1 crop, but that's only because that's how my camera's always usually set up anyway. I might change the crop to a 5x7. I'm not entirely sure yet until I get it on a bigger screen, but you can clearly see all my settings on there. ISO 100 to give me the best quality. To give it as much separation as the background as I can, I'm shooting this at f4. I can go lower, but I didn't want to because I want to give it some of that sharpness on the tree. And then obviously I've exposed for the highlights as well, because obviously some of those leaves are glistening because it's been raining, which is why I've used a polarizer as well, just to take some of the glare off of the tree. And it has crunched those colors up, which I'll probably desaturate, as like I've said. So it's a very simple image, and all of the tips so far 1 to 4 is how I've managed to achieve this image so far. So tip number 5, which is my last tip for all you guys learning or trying to work out woodland photography, and this is something that I'm still learning all the time with this tip, and hence why I'm back out now at this location, which is keep going out, either whether it's to the same locations or new locations, just keep doing it. I mean, yes, you might spend hours out there in the middle of nowhere, you might not come away with any images whatsoever, but the fact is, it's kind of like that saying, you've got to be in it to win it. If you're going to sit indoors, you're never going to get anything anyway. So it's tough. Woodland photography is a tough thing, I feel, anyway. It's trying to make sense of all the chaos. So that's the reason why I left tip number 5 to the end, because without going out all the time, you're never ever going to learn or make sense of all the chaos. So yeah, so there's my 5 tips. I'm hoping that these 5 tips will benefit somebody, whether it's myself rewatching it, I don't know, but yeah, like, those tips have helped me out a lot, and they're the ones that I remember all the time. Well, I tried to, apart from a few weeks ago, and I left my polarizer in the car. But like I said, it's one of those things where you have to keep reminding yourselves, and I feel like those 5 things are like the basics of trying to make sense of learning woodland photography. And just, you know, just take your time and have fun with it. You know, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And if you come away with something really, really nice, like one of those banger images that you want to, what we call as keepers or bangers, or, you know, it's one of those things where you can then feel a bit proud, and you can say that I used all those tips, or whatever your own tips are, is to achieve it. So, like I said, these aren't, you know, my tips as such, as in, like, they're not set rules, they're just how I do it as things. So yeah, I'm going to show you the image now that I've just taken, and I'm hoping it come out all right to prove this video worthy. Thank you so much for watching again. Thank you so much for all the new subscribers as well. You've been absolutely wonderful, and I'm going to keep pushing this channel and trying to do weekly vlogs. If I miss one, it will be every 2 weeks, but I'm really trying. I'm hoping that within the next few weeks, all these autumn colours will be vibrant as anything, and I'll be back out to this location and about 3 or 4 others as well. Whether they'll all be separate videos or not, I don't know, or there'll all be one, and I'm just going to do a lot of traveling and sleeping over possibly in the car. So yeah, thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one. Goodbye.